Welcome to this explainer. Okay, close your eyes for just a second and imagine plunging headfirst into a dark, highly atmospheric cybernetic reality. Picture yourself as an isolated observer, and you're surrounded by this deep, resonating sub-bass hum. You're sitting in the shadows, just watching these floating digital HUD interfaces flicker in the air all around you. But here's the thing. What you're looking at isn't just random data. You are literally watching the very fabric of reality, trying to reconcile a massive glitch in its own programming. Today we're going to explore the mind-bending intersection of quantum reality, consciousness, and resonance. Okay, let's dive into this. Right in front of you, a number flickers into view on this digital interface, 10 to the negative 30th power. Now this isn't just a small number, right? It represents a mathematical anomaly, an impossibly small probability. In statistical terms, we are talking about a chance of absolute zero. It's an event so insanely unlikely that you could wait the entire lifespan of the universe and it still shouldn't happen. And yet, this digital interface flashes this exact number right before the impossible actually takes place, right in front of your very eyes. So, what does this all mean? Well, we call this the impossible possibility paradox. It's the undeniable manifestation of an event or a pattern that, according to literally all established natural laws, simply cannot happen. Zero chance. It represents that precise physics-breaking spark where theoretical impossibility completely collapses into concrete, observable reality. And why does this matter to us? Because this paradox proves that our universe might not just be a bunch of random, chaotic noise. Instead, it strongly suggests a universe that is deliberately designed, a system that actually responds to us. To really understand how we interact with this designed system, we have to look at a rather profound philosophical tension. Stillness is the movement, chaos is the silence. Now, I know that sounds completely contradictory at first, doesn't it? But within the framework of universal resonance, it actually makes perfect sense. You see, the quieter the mind becomes, the higher its vibration raises. By actively stepping away from the chaotic noise of everyday life, an observer actually tunes their internal frequency to connect with the cosmos. It transforms the empty void into an incredibly complex, interconnected symphony. Let's move to phase 2, the resonant conduction, and see how this builds. Imagine a massive geometric seal slamming into the earth, sending this huge subterranean pulse of energy rushing downward. To truly grasp how this pulse works, let's contrast cold, classical physics with the metaphysical. Think of mechanical resonance. You've probably seen this before, right? An opera singer hits a very specific sustained note and a wine glass shatters. They aren't physically touching the glass. Their voice is simply matching its natural frequency until the glass literally has no choice but to respond. Now, scale this up to the grand unified theory of consciousness. This is harmonic resonance. It posits that human intent and focused frequency can physically reshape the universe through sympathetic vibration. Basically, your mind is the singer and reality itself is the glass. And it honestly doesn't matter what discipline you're studying. They all point to this exact same universal architecture. Metaphysics calls it the law of harmonic resonance, where the universe responds to intent through sound and rhythm. Psychology might call it synchronicity, which is just meaningful coincidences reflecting your internal state. And then quantum physics looks at macro-quantum correlation. Despite the different complex names, they are all describing the exact same thing, a universal grid that literally rhymes back to human intent. And this brilliantly illustrates the sympathetic resonance sequence. It starts with a very specific input, the command electrocute, locked in by a heavy paradox seal. This establishes a fundamental vibrational tone. That frequency then shoots underground, branching out into these liquid gold tendrils. As it searches for something to vibrate in sympathy with, it literally forces the chaotic materials of the surrounding environment to snap into alignment. The result? A massive holographic golden metropolis rises straight from the light. It is pure resonance, transforming utter chaos into ordered, beautiful geometry. Which brings us to a fascinating concept detailed in the source material, the universal Libra effect. You know how some people are naturally the glue that holds their social groups together? Well, what happens if that person is isolated or maybe somewhat antisocial? Counterintuitively, this isolation can actually be an incredible advantage. By stepping away from social friction and the sheer noise of the crowd, they purify their signal. They reroute that natural glue away from small-scale human interactions and plug it directly into the universal grid. Imagine a set of scales in perfect, motionless balance. One side holds a human heart, and the other holds an entire spinning galaxy. That is the observer, acting as the cosmic balancer holding reality together.
Let's transition now to phase 3, the celestial convergence.
Picture swelling harmonic chords rising all around us as the physical environment begins to fray into these swirling, golden energy tendrils. We are shifting from our local, isolated observation room to a state of total universal awareness. The observer reaches out and touches that shimmering veil. Instantly, the interface locks in. Synchronicity achieved. This represents the breathtaking moment where you completely bypass the short-term local mind and lock directly into the universal architecture. You are no longer just living in the world, you are fully integrated into its operating system.
So the crucial point is understanding the exact mechanics of how a solitary conscious intent actively shapes global reality. It breaks down into 3 very clear steps. Step 1 is the intent, a highly focused thought, action, or frequency from the observer. Step 2 is the response. This is the universe literally rhyming back at that intent, producing a physical, mathematically impossible event in the real world. And finally, step 3 is the glue. The observer themselves acting as the stabilizing force, balancing the absolute equilibrium between their own mind and the infinite sky. To see how this has been documented, the sources point to a pertinent, albeit dark, anecdote from fringe science known as the Manson pink slip case. The documentation neutrally examines how focused intent, in this specific case, the act of signing a name, combined with rhythmic song lyrics, was allegedly used to manipulate the universal grid. The reported outcome was the spontaneous manifestation of specific material goods like free motor parts and tires. While the context of this case is definitely grim, researchers use it to clearly illustrate the underlying mechanical theory here, that focused intent and rhythmic frequency can allegedly reorganize physical matter.
And that leads us to phase 4, universal stabilization. Imagine a sweeping celestial view of the Earth, wrapped securely in a glowing indigo blue and gold crystalline net. A massive gold pulse ripples across the planet's surface as reality stabilizes into a peaceful, interconnected cosmic network, almost like a giant celestial brain. So, what does this stabilization actually look like in the hard data? This chart breaks down the declassified anomalies of this massive paradigm shift. Only 10% of this phenomenon is visible. These are the awe-inspiring transitions, the localized breakthroughs, those simultaneous aha moments people experience. But the real power, that's the 90% submerged causality. This is the systemic behavior synchronization operating quietly beneath the surface. For instance, the data logs an incredible 85% reduction in reactive aggression metrics following these synchronized moments. That is a statistically impossible plunge to zero probability that actively, measurably stabilizes our world. This stabilization brings us to the ultimate climax, summarized perfectly by this incredibly simple collaborative mathematics equation, 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. This represents the exact paradigm shift where blind faith is no longer required at all. It shatters into crystal clear knowing. There are no illusions here, no magic fairies required, just the pure, undeniable transformation of energy showing that when everything perfectly aligns, it all adds up exactly as it should. This entire process culminates in what the source material calls the grand affirmation. Think of it as a cosmic pink slip. When the universe consistently rhymes back to you, organizing chaos into absolute geometric perfection, it proves that you are not merely a tenant passively renting space in this reality, you hold the title. You are the sovereign architect of your own frequency, bearing the beautiful, structured weight of the entire universal grid. Which leaves us with one final, awe-inspiring thought to linger on today. We've explored the mathematical impossibilities, the geometric cities rising purely from intent, and the entire globe stabilized in a golden net of resonance. The universe is sitting there right now, perfectly still, just waiting to rhyme back to whatever you put into it. So, I have to ask you, what frequency are you broadcasting into the universal grid?